this is a test setup we're trying to do. Like, in theory, if this works well, then it's something we could recommend for other IndieWebCamp events around the world as an easy setup. But the fact that another laptop has to host the Hangout is actually, I think, a problem.
You cannot host it from the.
I don't know how. Like,
From
Oh,
an iPad? I don't know if you can.
because then it won't be on YouTube. That's the point.
right. So you can use the YouTube app directly to do a YouTube live, but I don't think you can start a Hangouts on Air, which has both. So you could definitely start a Hangout, or you could do YouTube live. But yeah.
Yeah.
The Hangout is streaming to YouTube?
Yeah, so it does both things. Like, it's hosting a Google Hangout that people can call in to interact with, but the resulting video from the perspective of my laptop is being saved to YouTube, streamed live. Oh, and that's why my fans are spinning, because I forgot to turn my camera on. Perfect.
Building a censorship-resistant web. Micropub posts, posse
What do people
repeat.
see on YouTube?
Photo
It's
galleries.
Laptop camera?
Photos and
No, they
galleries.
see this,
They see this.
because it's the primary.
I think I'm going to
Whoever is talking.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Sorry, I just want to finish putting the links
We'll
up.
be here talking
Links
about
live
important
stream.
things.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying
actually,
that isn't important. I'm just saying.
It's just
I
here
think
on
the whole posse post.
And this is a feature from Google Hangouts?
Yeah,
What did you say,
yeah, it's Google
Micropub?
Hangouts on
It's
Air.
Micropub
So
posse
it's a
post
combo
repeat.
feature, like,
No, it's Micropub post.
you actually start the event on
It's,
Exactly,
It's
that's
four
the debate.
words,
and
and
then
it's
when you
That's the debate.
create the YouTube live event,
Post
and then
posse
when you
repeat.
start recording it,
post
then
like
you
post
can-
the
entry on
they
your
will
blog,
actually,
or is
like,
it post
send
like
you to
after
Hangouts
the.
to start it. Yeah, it's
Well,
strange.
Micropub is the medium by which you
And then, yeah,
post.
it's a
Then you
little
posse,
different because
then you repeat
it's
it.
not just like showing the Hangout. Obviously,
I
it's
just
like
keep
showing
trying
a
to come up
full-size video
with
of
new
whoever's
names
talking.
for
Well,
things.
I would suggest, instead of repeat, it's Micropub. Hey,
Yeah.
what's new?
The
It's pretty good.
organizers.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty good.
Awesome.
If it didn't require two devices, I think.
What do
it
you
would
think
be
of the Flickr's policy change?
It probably
Counts.
We didn't read it.
Otherwise you need a webcam.
If you
I don't know.
have,
I always preferred the,
yeah,
their
like
new
we've
parent
done this with
company.
a Chromebook, and then you
The
just
what?
do it all.
I always preferred the
And
new
that
parent
works really
company.
well.
Smug mug.
I think I still recommend that.
I
Actually.
don't mind them.
So,
They do care about photography.
what
It's
about,
not a free
what about
company.
editing? So Micropub
I
post,
think I still,
Posse.
even the ones that fold over. So I think I still recommend that.
Micropub update,
Anyway, thanks for letting me.
Why are we updating?
Thanks for letting me ramble.
because you're editing your post, because you're fixing a typo.
I suppose it could be in the workflow, but I was just trying to come
It's
up
part of the
with
workflow.
Well, that will come up as we talk about the
Create a
workflow.
post, you update it, and of course,
But you're not
you delete
staying,
it
so you
because
can't
decided it was
discuss
a bad
this.
idea in the first place.
But you're not discussing this because you're not staying. You're going
Just drop
photo.
Well, he is. He is here. He's already. We started a minute ago. We're doing
Okay.
it.
So
So,
I'm dropping my little seeds of wisdom and moving on.
so for those of you who are not just pollinating the room, who want to continue the discussion. So the topic at the moment is basically workflow discussions for indie web posting.
Yeah.
So it is Micropub, post, posse, repeat, or some variant thereof. So the idea,
They
do
just
you
need
mind
unique names. You can't upload them with
we're
the same name.
we're sessioning
Will they
here?
have file names?
Are
Or
they
what do you mean?
unique file names?
Well, image
Let's take that.
Yeah, that's what.
0.53.
But that's from your camera. Somebody else might have an image.05.
So the question is, how have people structured their workflow? How would they like their workflow to be in the future? What are the stumbling blocks of their workflow, etc. So I thought it was a good topic to have, a good non-technical topic. The Micropub, posse are technical terms, but it's how do you start your publishing flow? How do you actually publish? How do you syndicate? And how do you make that workflow repeatable? So again, I have naming problems with coming up with seminar names. So it may just be that I didn't explain it very well. This may be the least understood title since I came up with Great Moments with Mr. Parecki.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Which was talk about all of these standards that Aaron created.
Oh, this is the same.
Well, no, I did that for a different one.
Okay.
I just like to come up with
Did
interesting
I got them
definitions.
all now?
Well, it's what do you want from the workflow, how to post, how do you syndicate, and before he left to go talk about it, he was how do you edit and update, which is also one that I didn't actually factor in, and delete, I suppose, is in there. So what is the workflow? Where do you want to start? Where do you want to end? Now, I've been working on this for 4 years. So I actually am starting to see all of the tools that I wanted start to come together. So I'll talk about my workflow for a moment. You know what's in the middle of my workflow because I've never hidden what my CMS is.
Yeah.
So the middle of it is WordPress. But WordPress wants to come up with this new-fangled editor, Gutenberg.
I can't call it backend, right? It's called it's in the middle.
Platform.
It's coming out 15.
Yeah. So right now in the WordPress community, if the word it doesn't have the word Gutenberg in it, they won't consider it. So I considered asking if the community would mind if we rename web mentions to Guten mentions. No, I'm just saying we just put Gutenberg in front of everything and it'll solve the problem. Suddenly the WordPress community will be interested again. Actually, no, again is better. But anyway, my jokes about that. I'm very concerned about losing the editor I have now. And I've been sort of working on it for years because the WordPress editor is not really, to put it mildly, IndieWeb friendly. I've sort of tried to hack it to be. So why can't Micropub? Why can't I run WordPress, which I'm on, headless, and use Micropub? Micropub is completely platform neutral. That's why I use it as the first conversation there.
Yeah.
Which is, I can use anybody's custom client. I could write my own client. I could do whatever I wanted. Micropub, you have sub.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll talk about me wanting to use microsub later.
Yeah.
That's
No,
a
it's
whole
just
other-
I'm just making
Yeah.
readers, so
Yeah, I'm
it's
saying that's
muscle
that's
memory.
a whole other yeah.
Yeah.
So and he was supposed to be here this weekend, but had a last minute cancellation. There is now a Micropub client for Android. I've been waiting for this for a while. There are actually two, but one's more actively developed than the other. Indigenous for Android is one, the other is Rimini, WRIMINI. But Indigenous for Android is the one that seems to have a lot more attention behind it. There's also Indigenous for iOS. So we've covered both mobile platforms. And one of the most common things, specifically with note posting, is that I very rarely do that at a computer. I have my quick thoughts usually when I'm not at my computer.
Yeah.
So note posting is number one. So there's Micropub. A Micropub note poster is very useful. So then you need a Micropub endpoint. Number two, you need something that actually receives these things.
Is this a
well, in this
so
case, mobile.
A mobile note taking app.
Yeah, is something that I really felt I needed. The other one is, of course, reading. I do most of my reading on mobile. I don't read on my computer quite as much as I would read on a tablet or I would read on a phone. So bookmarking is also something that's a mobile first thing for me most of the time. So once you have a mobile, once you have a mobile way of posting stuff, then you need, well, where do those posts go? That's again the Micropub endpoint and how you choose to display it once it gets there, which is the second part of the workflow. And the final part of the workflow is how do you send that out to other people? So assuming you have a site, how do you make sure other people find out about what you're up to? Because if you are just talking in a vacuum, that's a diary. If you're posting on a website, you expect there to be some other people seeing it, at least some of the time. So that's the POSSE part of the syndication part. The question is where to syndicate, why to syndicate, what audiences are there for that? Should you go to Twitter? Should you go and syndicate the sites that aggregate data? For example, if you're posting bookmarks, do you want to basically syndicate your bookmarks? Pinboard was somebody was mentioning, which is a bookmark site. Delicious was an old one. Do you want to do it to Wallabag, which I think it was Peter Muller who said he's using? Do you want to?
Well, I think he's running his own.
Yeah, but it's still I'm not considering it something he's not self-hosting. It's a software product. It's not your website. Doesn't matter if it's yours. Yeah. I could syndicate to my network attached storage, and it's still syndication in that sense, at least, not literally. I could have a syndication target in a Micropub client that went somewhere private.
That's right.
If I wanted to. So that's why you see me sort of using the broader term of syndication rather than just simply POSSE, because you could also use the same technology for archiving.
Yeah.
So there's the question. That's a fairly good workflow, and I've been trying to get that smooth for 4 years now. But
Did you succeed? No, or what? Yeah.
you tell me.
Okay. Yeah. You described the workflow you want.
Yeah.
Which parts? I mean, you've got a Micropub endpoint, right?
Well, I didn't build it, but I do now have a Micropub client and a developer who's actually responsive to some of my
Client or server?
client.
So you have something that makes post. That
Yeah. So indigenous for Android is one.
Yeah,
of those
that's it. Yeah.
So indigenous for Android is installed on this phone, and I do test it, and it has actually made me more likely to write stuff. Same thing, I think indigenous for iOS, even though different developer, different group, has the same result, which is if it's really easy to write stuff, if you have a really good posting UI, then you will write more things.
Yeah, for me, it's also, since I've added a Micropub endpoint,
Yeah, and it started with me. On trips, I do a lot more location-based posting, but I've started to do a lot more, quick thoughts because now I can capture. But a lot of this has come together in the last few weeks.
You
nice.
can capture that offline without any data connection.
Yeah, it has a draft mode on the Android side, or I can do private. I can do. The nice thing is because he's been very responsive, I was able to get him to put in features that appear in no other Micropub client, including there's a draft proposal for auto tagging. The only endpoint that actually supports auto tagging, as in suggesting tags based on previous tags you've used, the only one that I know supports it is the WordPress one.
So what is it about?
It can query your site's existing tags so that it will suggest tags for you as you're typing.
Ah.
So it's basically auto suggest. But I think he put it into Drupal now. But at the time that he implemented it, the only WordPress had the query support for it.
No.
WordPress is still the only endpoint that has support for location visibility, which was another one I added in, which is the ability to hide the exact point of your location and only show a textual description.
Yeah.
If you don't want.
That's the one that sounds to me very specific, but
yeah,
maybe it can be shared, but yeah.
Well, no, it's basically, we have a visibility property.
Mm-hmm.
So location visibility is a version of the visibility property specifically for part of the post. So I want to show the post, but I don't want to show the coordinates.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's specific in the sense that you make a totally new property for one specific part of the post.
Yes.
And that's
but
yeah.
But no, but it's not a microformats property. It's a Micropub property, and an MP dash is the instruction for an instruction to the server.
Yeah.
So it's not a. You're saying you're making a new property. I'm saying I'm making a new instruction.
No. You're making but you're making an instruction to hide one of the properties.
Yes.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. But
okay. Yeah.
By the way,
it sounds like something you.
There's a setting there's a setting to turn it off.
Okay.
Yeah. It is an actually optional setting that is not enabled by default.
Yeah. But
he did it for me, so disappointed he isn't here. But no, I would have cornered him and tried to get him to do 5 more things for me. So it's actually filled out my location issue, which is I like posting where I am, but I don't always want people to know exactly where it is down to the map.
Yeah.
And the final part is, of course, where do you send it? And I've just started getting sending to the point at which it's actually working a lot better for me, and I can build more syndication targets. So I built an entire system to do syndication that doesn't actually syndicate anything. It just, I was talking about this using a different analogy. There's a fictional company in a book that I was explaining to Chris Aldrich. Mm-hmm. It's a piece of young adult literature where there's this company called Interflux. The idea of this company is that for every 2 items, there's a third item that makes the other 2 items much more useful. So it's the idea, the company in this story started out by making not buggy whips, but they made the thing that connected the handle to the actual whip.
I have no idea what those 2 are.
Okay, what a buggy whip is?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a horse and the thing you hit the horse with. So it's a handle with like
Ah.
Yeah, you have. So the idea is the thing that connects the handle to the object that needs a handle.
Yeah.
So this is the concept I keep thinking about, which is in order to solve this type of problem, you need something that connects two things together.
Mm-hmm.
For Brian Barrett, it's bridging. He's connecting arbitrary APIs to web mentions.
Yeah.
So I think his expression is bridge all the things. So that's the solution to all of my workflow things. Bridging.
Bridging.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, it's make it so that everything works so smoothly in this that I could just swap out a piece. Yeah, the other thing I was doing was basically the IKEA philosophy. You have a table, and you have like 15 different legs you could put on the same table.
Yeah, yeah.
But it still works, and it's still a table.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, the whole advantage of the community has been that you can create these standards or these processes by which each side doesn't have to know what language it's actually speaking, as long as in between it speaks a common set of vocabulary. So I can integrate with Bridgie without Bridgie actually knowing anything about what my site has to do with it, as long as I use the right terms. Micropub can send something to my site. It's up to my site to figure out what to do with it once it gets there. So I did the same thing with syndication. I just created the connection. So it registers syndication targets, and it figures out if somebody sends one what to do with it, but then it hands it over to whatever's actually doing the syndicating in whatever format that syndication program actually needs. And I did this with every part of that workflow, which is why when I decided I wanted to add weather when I was doing location, I was able to code another weather provider in 15 minutes. Because all of the infrastructure was just, okay, well, what's coming in? What does it have to spit out? So I told it what was coming in, and I told it what to spit out, and it worked.
Yeah, I think I missed a piece here, but
yeah, no, I'm saying it works I'm saying it works for this type of philosophy. Works for every type of workflow where you say abstract out all the pieces, make everything modular, make it so that the workflow has nothing to do with what it's actually doing.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my philosophy of it. But I wanted to talk about what are other people doing in this area. So how are you making it extremely easy for you to do something to overcome the inertia of deciding, oh, in order to write this post, I'm going to have to go to my computer, I'm going to have to log in, I'm going to have to click all these little things, make all these little decisions. And by that time, my one paragraph, I've said, it just sounds so overwhelming. I'm not going to do any of these things. And I'm just going to say nothing.
You're Kirby,
I'm still on Kirby, and I really want to swap that part out. But I mean, the Micropub endpoint helps with that I can still use all the other parts if I create a new thing that uses my site. And then I want to show this. This is the folder Micropub on my iPhone, and I got several shortcuts with. It's a new function in iOS. It's called Siri shortcuts, but it has been there forever under a different name by a individual.
I've heard about the concept.
Yeah, so I can do the tweet if I want to tweet something, and this is one that I actually use. I can just press tweet, and it will fire up a workflow, and the workflow starts with ask for input. And then if I type in this field and I click OK, then it will post to my website, and also indicates that it should be on Twitter, and then my website handles the Twitter stuff.
Yep, and that's doable in a lot of different systems.
Yeah, so if I cancel, you can yeah, it's just scripting. So it's ask for input, then it copies to the clipboard, then it puts the thing in a variable, and it counts the characters even, and it checks it warns me if it's over the old character limit. But I like that.
You like to stay under 140 instead of 280.
Well, I like to know how much I'm over it, so I'm keeping it this way because I'm always over it. But then it even captures my location, and in the end makes a Micropub request. So this is one flow, but the one with there's this one. This one is even better.
I'm just documenting what you're doing.
Yeah. I got this photo one. Wait, I'm going to use the photo one because I recently tested it and it worked. Is it okay if I photograph your computer? So I just took a picture of Callum's yeah, computer, yeah. It looks good enough to post, right? So let's do that, and I can go, I believe, from this one. I can now choose, like, in the context menu, I can pick now the workflow photo on Zeplog, and when I press that one, it takes the photo as an input, and I can write a caption. Can talk and write. It's not on, it's at, right? So at IndieWebCamp Berlin, demoing my photo workflow. That's the caption. And then when I click OK, it will copy that to the clipboard. So I got it saved. Now it's asking for the location, so that takes a while because we're inside. Now it posts to my weblog. And if it's done,
so I should be able to pull it up here.
Yeah, it's not going through, but it should be on there any moment. Yep, there we are.
What's the address?
Zeplog. Oh yeah, LOG.
Oh, that's what I'm remembering.
It's weblog, but yeah. So it should be the first.
I remember it was .nl. I'm just really bad with remembering. So there it is.
Yeah, there it is. And but the workflow goes through. Like I'm now inside of this. I can now go back to the workflow by tapping the back button. And it broke. No. It broke.
Location.
No, it broke
one
because
of those gallery click things.
I did it from the camera, and I should have used the Photos app. The thing, what needs to happen if it posted my thing to my website, and then it gets the URL and it redirects me to the URL, but then the workflow goes on. So if I then switch back to the workflow, the thing will ask me, do you want to have it on Instagram too?
Yeah, which would.
And if I answer yes to that question, it will take the content variable again and put it on the, like it opens the action place on Instagram, which opens the Instagram app with that photo, and it puts my content in there as well. So it's
Okay,
the only thing, like, Instagram does not have an API, but it opens Instagram for me, and it fills in all the things. All I have to do is just click on it. Then, and the workflow ends with getting on Instagram, grabbing the URL of the Instagram post, and then going back to the post, like copying it, going back to the post. And if I'm in the browser, I can use this other workflow on my page, which is safe syndication. And if I click that one, it will take whatever is in the clipboard and post a update request to the post with syndication. So it saves syndication as well.
Which works very nicely.
Yeah. And it's sad that it broke just now, but it's really nice. I mean, I can now still do the manual stuff, but it really automates a lot of the manual stuff.
Let me test. Can you share workflow?
Can I share the workflow?
Well, no, I'm saying if, let's say that you have, I'm not an iOS user, so it wouldn't help me. But let's say that somebody said to you, I really like that. I have a copy of it? Can you copy those flows or back them up?
I believe you can, but my token is there in somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and my endpoint, they are hard coded in there. And
Yeah,
that's-
but you don't,
uh,
would you be able to show it to somebody if they ever wanted to do it so that they could figure out how to
yeah,
reproduce
I
it?
should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
sort of the
should.
question.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, it wouldn't help me, but it would help somebody who was using the same platform.
Well, now that Apple opened it up to people, I'm maybe want to look at it again. If they change it, I don't know if you can. It would be really nice if you can like
The
get
configuration
a
variable.
yeah, but run a workflow from a workflow, like basically writing a function in this scripting thing. Then I could make the micropub one some separate thing. Like this is the micropub, and then you can call it from other functions. But I don't know if that's
Yeah.
advanced.
Well, if you can, then people would enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll just stick with the app workflow for now.
Yeah, but the nice thing is that because I've got a micropub endpoint, I can do these things.
Yeah, you can do anything that it'll support.
But I can also use indigenous for iOS or for Android if I own one.
That's sort of where I'm going, which is completely neutral. It doesn't matter what's in the middle.
No, yeah. Yeah, but yeah.
I think
you
that
said something about
it's the best. No, it's basically the best of all worlds. You make it so each piece can talk. That's the way that the community has built itself up.
Yeah.
I just keep taking it to the next extreme and saying, okay, well, what other thing can I abstract? Can I keep going until every piece could work? I could just swap in whatever.
Yeah, you were basically talking about, unless I misunderstood you, about enhancing a post with weather data based off the syndication workflow. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Well, there's the example.
Yeah.
These are all, because I was afraid of having a problem again, these are all I really should not show. I'll change the API keys later.
Yeah.
Too many of those up on the screen. I don't think it can be seen though. But
I've done.
The resolution
the
on
camera
that
is over there, so.
yeah, the resolution is probably not enough for that, but
No,
the whole
changed them anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, they're due for change. I like to update them periodically.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is, and I'll do this a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I just hit, but I have a list, so we'll just go to. I'm using it as an example because location is not necessarily the one I would use for it,
No.
but just for location as an example, I have basically, excuse me, now 5. I forgot to add one in here. I have 5 different possible map providers.
Yeah.
I have 3. Again, I have to update this because I actually now include Bing. I have 3 different things that can actually look up geocoding.
And geocoding being like this the string of the location.
Yes.
Like the name.
Or that's reverse geo. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I have technically 2 different location providers, only one official one, and 2 different weather providers. And I have this. There's the actual full list because one of these people shut off my access without an API key and started blocking me for abuse. So now, if anybody blocks me for abuse, I have like 5 other options to go through, and nobody will know the difference.
Yeah.
So I've done this in everything where I don't want to rely on one specific area. I want to know that if there's a problem, I can just very quickly, this service doesn't exist anymore. I want another service. Or I want this new service. I want to make it very easy to just keep adding things until I don't care anymore.
Do you or do you not actually use syndication endpoints to, like, what I came up
with? That part of it's all automated. Every time I syndicate, it automatically adds in all of the extra data.
Syndicate to what?
To anything.
To anything.
So anytime I post to my site, we'll start back from the Micropub part of it.
Mm-hmm.
When Micropub sends a post to my site that has location, it figures out where that location is and what the weather is automatically. Then that information, if it's there, gets added into any syndication that I do.
Yeah, what I was thinking about earlier, and I call this the syndication button hack, was to if I got Quill here, right?
Yeah,
my
I'm pulling
site
it up there as well.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I got a my site knows what it is to make a post private, but there is nothing in Quill here that says.
Well, actually, there is in the editor version. There is.
Yeah, but apart from that, there could be editors out there that do not support this property.
Yeah, the
right?
visibility one.
The visibility. I can make a syndication target
as an
which
overload
is
of-
called, yeah, which is called private. And then
Yeah.
I can syndicate to private, and then my website knows, oh wait, he doesn't mean that I should send it to private. He knows that he wants the blog post private. So
Yeah.
that's a sort of hack to get a toggle,
Yeah, which will work in anything. that
which
supports
will
syndication.
anything that supports syndication. And that there's a long list of, most of them do support this.
But I can show you the other thing quickly.
Yeah.
This is my test site, so I don't mind posting garbage there.
Okay.
And we'll just add in Twitter, because I have a test Twitter account for this. So
Okay.
here's one of these posts. I could add a picture if you want.
Not there, but-
Yeah, but that's where the browser thinks we are.
Okay.
So if I posted this, by the way, for Twitter, there's a 15-second delay before it
Okay.
goes out to Twitter. There's a practical reason for it. Actually, it went pretty quickly there. So if you look, there's a map, there's an estimated location, there's weather. Everything
Yeah.
automatically, whenever you share location, enhances it. And it's supposedly, according to, it should actually be, the location should actually be showing up on here, but apparently he's not picking it up now. All this is, yeah,
Yeah, but this part is just bridging publish, right?
that's Bridget published now,
Yeah.
but it could be anything.
Yeah.
My next step, the way that I built it, is I could substitute a custom Twitter API integration if I wanted to, or any API integration.
Yeah,
I wrote it so that all I have to do is call one function and it figures out how to convert it to whatever API there is. So that one does micro formats, but we'll see. But that's my workflow, and I sort of wanted to get new ideas about it because it's finally starting to get to the point where each part of it is incredibly easy, and that's been 4 years of my life. Not continuously, but like,
No.
It's been the
like
dream.
24/7.
it's been the dream for 4
Yeah.
years. And I think that's the dream for most people, just as easy as any. The whole reason why things like Facebook and Twitter became so popular is because they were easy to do.
Do you have a workflow like this or any?
Yeah, it's quite similar. I mean, I started probably about 4 years ago actually doing Twitter, and that was probably the first syndication target that I set up. That was before I set up any Gucci linkage. So I still have, like, on my interface, I have both Twitter, the Abraham plugin for that, and that just
Yeah,
gives me all the.
I thought about liberating that and basically using somebody else's library and just doing the same thing I was doing, which is just have it go directly to Twitter. And it would probably be slightly more accurate because with all of the people on WordPress, the micro formats are not consistent between people's websites, which is what annoys people. They expect it to work perfectly and blame me instead of their micro formats for the problem.
Yes, so, I still use it for occasionally when I have just the photo post, I just put it on there, and I just want the photos to come up because I find with Bridgie, if I'm posting that, I will give the URL for the link back to the post, and that will take over any of the card information. So
yeah, which is one of the reasons why I think of leaving it, even though I'm enamored with the product. It's
up until recently, I was doing the same for Facebook, which I've now.
well, no one's doing anything for Facebook anymore. It's
So I've left it. I haven't actually.
no, I'm more going that nobody's publishing automatically to Facebook because they don't allow it anymore. I'm sure Twitter is next.
Yeah. I was considering spending like a few hours trying to get my head around Mastodon, trying to get that syndicating. But yeah, my whole sort of backend that is pretty much just a PHP module for each of the different posting options, and there's a Micropub endpoint, which I think originally I was looking at Jeremy Keith's minimal viable endpoint. They created that.
Yeah. Well, you also have, I think it was, did he do a minimum viable? I thought he did a minimal viable web mention endpoint. He did a
Yeah.
minimum viable Micropub endpoint. Because I know it was Aaron who did Micropub endpoint in 45 minutes, which was interesting to watch. But
Yeah.
did Jeremy do something also? I don't remember.
This is, I think it's like 4 years ago. He did like.
Yeah, that would have
some,
been his minimum viable web mention endpoint, I think.
Yeah, and there's like, I think it's still on Gist, but I since found, I think it was at Nuremberg, it actually broke because I was doing like other upgrades to my server, and it just, because normally when I'm doing check-ins, it goes through the endpoint and then there's like a processing, goes through 3 or 4 if statements, and then one of those was just collapsing because I think the header wasn't coming through.
But to go back to the question of ease of use, do you find your workflow easy? Or is it still too complicated?
I actually like coincidence that it's actually pretty simple. Like whenever I want to add on like an additional posting option like RSVPs, the CMS that I built was completely from scratch, and it was just actually the example I think I originally used was pretty well modularized, so you could actually just go through and add, say, like an option just to create a completely new post type.
That's on my list, actually. I'm not quite related to workflow, but one of my things on my list is to define the properties of each type of post and have the system automatically generate the posting interface. But I keep flipping back and forth between that and giving up on posting interfaces entirely and just using other people's.
Yeah, it's nice to have other people's.
I probably will, what's the expression, burn the candle from both ends on that one. Try to cover it in both ways.
I keep thinking about this. I want to draw.
Yeah, just remember shiny part only.
Yeah. This looks
Yeah.
whiteboardish, and this says whiteboard, so we should
Yeah,
be fine.
that's,
No,
we don't want to graffiti their walls.
If you got your own site, right? I'm just curious if this is what you meant, but this is the thing I'm now, like you have a site and you have a client, like, it should be, this is the app.
Yeah, same basic idea, client.
Yeah, and the app, this is your Micropub endpoint, so it goes to your Micropub endpoint with the content of, and you want to syndicate to the weather. This is a way.
You're talking about having a target that would automatically do it instead of.
Yeah, but if you then Micropub this to this thing, then it would post the content on your site, and also send a sort of, it knows then, oh, I should syndicate the weather. It sort of, if it can then web mention the weather app, then the weather app can say, oh, it can read the content, and in this case, it probably won't do anything with it, but if it's this weather service, so it can read the content, like get location or stuff, and so we need location here too, otherwise it would be useful. And then it can do it reads it, and then it does the math to get the weather, and then it can put an update request to the Micropub endpoint to add the weather. Yeah. And in this way, you've decoupled the weather endpoint so that anyone who supports Micropub, and yeah, I guess this web mention thing, that's a new type of protocol, so we need that one. But anyone who can send a web mention, who can answer to this syndicate or enhance type of thing with a web mention and support a Micropub update request, can then have a different service that enhances your post based on
which is doable.
Yeah.
Right now, I define mine is automatic. If location is set, it will automatically store the weather.
Yeah, that's
internal, built in.
But that's internal as but this would make it WordPress independent.
Yeah,
because I can use it with Kirby, if only I know how to. Oh, it's weather, so I should ping the weather service with a web mention. That's the only tricky part here.
Weather does actually have an endpoint.
Okay.
That the endpoint you can only query the endpoint if you have Indie off. So it actually does.
It does.
It would actually work with me doing very little. But I use that because I need a way to access the weather so they can on the post interface, so you could retrieve it before you published it.
Ah.
So since I have a way to do that technically,
Okay.
that is interesting because what I could build, it never occurred to me, I could build the weather querying directly into the Micropub query thing, where you could query your Micropub endpoint for weather.
That could be, yeah.
That could be interesting. Well, there's already a proposal for querying your Micropub endpoint for a bunch of other things. There's nothing that says I can't just use the Micropub endpoint to query everything.
You can. Yeah. I mean, you maybe should document why you're using it, and then other people can support it in their readers too.
Well,
but I'm thinking here about more in general. I mean, this is more a service, so maybe we shouldn't call it syndicate, but call it service or something.
Well, that's a question I'd be curious to ask Aaron, who devised the original Micropub. Your idea that you could have syndication being a trigger service for other things happening.
Yeah.
And not just purely syndication.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that changes the whole thought there.
So it gives you options. It's just give me that one, give me that one.
Yeah, which is a way for any client to do it without actually having to support those options.
Yeah.
As properties. Because that's definitely worth a Micropub discussion at some point.
Yeah.
Because syndication doesn't necessarily have to be syndication. Why is it that the server can't tell you what options it supports and the client just renders them?
Yeah. I mean,
as long as they're toggles.
I mean, in the spec, it's also like you query you have to query the configuration endpoint with the token. So you actually know if you provide the tokens, you know which client is asking. So you can give Quill other options than, for instance, indigenous. So you can even play with that.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that is an interesting thought. I'm going to have to. I think that's, as I said, I think that's a Micropub discussion.
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah, not complete because we're talking Micropub.
No, but I'm saying I'd be interested to get people who are interested in talking about it from a Micropub perspective on that conversation.
Yeah,
because there are a bunch of interesting Micropub experimental properties, not just the two I mentioned that I sort of pushed Christoph to add in, but he didn't complain now.
Oh, yeah.
I got him to put an altitude also, but that still isn't pushed. I don't know what my obsession is with altitude.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, honestly,
you're not that high right now, so.
Well, that was the other part of the problem. I kept asking people for advice. How do you display how high you are? And I got a whole bunch of answers of people who thought I was talking about something else. Until I realized that was happening and changed my terminology.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that we don't talk enough about workflow, which is why I want to talk about it as a concept. Mm-hmm. I see mine coming together, and I want to see other people's workflow coming together so that there are more posts out there in general.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, Micropub, having a Micropub endpoint changes a lot.
It solves the problem. And having decent Micropub clients for multiple platforms and a bunch of specialty ones. Because there are, for a while there, the only specialty ones were being written by Aaron, which is back to that new expression, the single point of Aaron. But I'd like to see more, and I'd like to see more specialized ones built by a variety of different people. You have Marty, who built, Screech. Screech is his podcast episode posting Micropub client. But there are a bunch of features I think he wanted to do, but hasn't gotten around to.
I'm thinking that weather could be a service here, but location could be a service too, in the case where on my phone, there's an app, Aaron's app is running on my phone and captures my location. It can ping but then weather won't work until location answers. So
I'd couple them together, which is what I did. What I did was I couple weather and location together, and I consider weather a property of your location.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Works.
But
so
then
whenever I query for a location, I query for what the weather conditions are there. Now, if you want to go, I'm not going to say crazy Aaron, but if you want to go to the extreme that Aaron tends to go to, he stores his location in a server, which,
Yep.
and then he queries that server based on the time so that he could do a historical post and know where he was. At one time, I challenged him to tell me where the IndieWeb was developed. He was able to look through his records for that day and figure out exactly what bar the two of them were in when they first came up with the idea. Because they remembered it was in a bar, they didn't remember which one, but he was able to find the exact one.
Based on his logs.
Based on his logs from that year.
Just about the weather.
He wasn't storing the weather at that point. He is now storing the weather for.
Yeah, but there are sources that.
But the problem is, I did the math on this. If you store your location in, let's say, I think he's doing 5-minute increments, and most APIs will not let you query that many times for free. So the actual cost of storing the weather conditions every 5 minutes would, let's see, I think I calculated it about, I think $4 a day or something. Depending on how frequently you do it. Let's see. Let's just.
We gotta wrap up a bit also.
Yeah. But no, this is any API issue. So just if you were going for, that's dark sky, for example.
Okay, yeah.
Multiplied out by, let's see. That's okay. What is it? It's, okay. How many 5 minutes in an hour? So that's, so every 5 minutes means what, 30 times an hour? That's how many hours. What did I just do? I just did something not good. There. I don't know how I did that. Anyway. Then multiplied out by 24 hours in a day, multiplied out by 30 days. And well, actually, let's go with 365 days a year. That's $26.28 a year. That's actually not so bad. I don't know how I got $4, but
that sounds reasonable.
I must have been calculating a pull in 30 seconds. But $26 a year, just that's an example of one service if you wanted it, just for storing your weather. Now, bear in mind if
for getting your weather, storing it part.
Well, no, storing it. No, I'm saying it just for retrieving it and having it. Now, meanwhile, I have my own weather station, so I could, as long as I'm at home, I could actually report what the weather is there. But that's hyperlocal.
Yeah, but you can do your home. You can post what the weather is at your home.
For everything. Yeah.
For everything, but let's say.
But also, historical weather is something of a controversial issue. Because that's a higher rate actually. But for everything, I'm going to just summarize what I said earlier. I see everything coming together, and I'm very excited about that. And next is the year of the reader. But the thing is, I always do things a year after everybody else, so next year will be my year of the reader.
If you do it better, it's okay. Just
well, yarn. I'm not doing it. There's a gentleman in Canada who's working on that.
Okay. Shall I do the Marley thing?
Well, we have, according to the schedule, let's see, what do we have here? This ends at 45. We're now at 47, so
we have ended.
Yeah, and I have to go into the adjoining room to talk about, coincidentally, location.
We'll be in White Smoke. Here in this room will be services for static sites.
With Jeremy Keith, I believe.
Isn't
no, he's doing
website work offline in this room?
I think services for static sites might have been Peter Molnar.
Yeah, I think so. And we got microformats for contracts, #money stuff in the recording room.
Hi ho, it's off to location I go. Hi ho. I don't know why I'm saying that all the time.